Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to speak about the holiday of Purim, the background, and the book called Megillat Esther. First of all, Megillat Esther, as it's called in Hebrew, is one of the 24 books of Tanakh. Tanakh is the Jewish Bible, or in English, it's called the Old Testament. The Old Testament has 24 books, and one of them is Megillat Esther. And Megillat Esther, the book of Esther, is from the time between the two temples. Jewish people had two temples. The first one lasted for 410 years in Jerusalem, and then it was destroyed by the Babylonians. And the second one was rebuilt 70 years later, and it lasted for 420 years. And it was destroyed by the Romans in year 70 of Common Era. And during the 70 years between the first temple and the second temple, the Jewish people were exiled in Babylonia. Later, the Babylonian kingdom was taken over by Medians and Persians. And then the Jewish people were allowed to come back to the land of Israel and to rebuild their temple. So the book of Esther speaks about the last half of those 70 years that the Jewish people were in exile. Now, just brief history of what happened in those 70 years. First, the king of Babylonia, Nebuchadnezzar, who conquered the land of Israel and Jerusalem and destroyed the temple, he brought the vessels, the utensils that were used in the holy temple, he brought them to Babylon, and they were stored there. He was careful not to use them. They were golden vessels, precious metal, but he was afraid that the God of the Jewish people may punish him. So he was careful to respect the Jews, even though he conquered them and he exiled them. But the Babylonians treated the Jewish people with respect. And he did not desecrate the holy vessels. After him, his son, his name was Evil Merodach, became the king of Babylonia. And after Evil Merodach, King Belshazzar became ruler of Babylonia. And King Belshazzar made a calculation. He knew the prophecy of Jeremiah, of Yirmiah, that the Jewish people will be exiled for 70 years. And he was patiently waiting until those 70 years are going to be up. However, he made a mistake, and he started counting the 70 years from the ascent of his grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar. And he thought that since Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the temple, it must be that the 70 years are counted from his first year, since the fear of him fell upon all the nations of the world. And when the 70 years were up, according to his calculations, he made a celebration, because he said that since God did not redeem the Jewish people upon the completion of 70 years, must be he forgot about them, must be he changed his mind, must be the Jewish people will never be redeemed, God forbid. So he made a celebration, and he took out the vessels of the holy temple, and he served in them at the party. And in the middle of the party, everyone saw a vision. A hand appeared, and it started writing on the wall of the palace. And it wrote a message that no one could understand. It was in a script that no one knew. And it was a short message, seemed like a mumble jumble. Nobody understood what it is. So he called his Jewish advisor, Daniel, and he commanded him to interpret it. And Daniel told him that this is written in Hebrew language, and the words translated into English mean that your king, you were measured on a scale and you were found to be missing. The end came to your kingdom and it will be divided. And very soon after, on the same night, the Persians and and Medians conquered Babylonia. They overran the palace and they killed Belshazzar on the same night as the punishment for his desecration of the holy vessels. After him, Dariavesh the Mede became the king, and the country changed and became split between Persians and Medians. They shared the rulership. And after Dariavesh, the next king was Koresh. And after Koresh, the king became Ahasuerus. This is one of the main characters of the Purim story. King Ahasuerus in Hebrew became the new ruler of the Persian Empire. And originally he was not a king. He was in fact a stable boy of the previous king, but through bribery, trickery, and conspiracy, he was able to become the king. And he made a new calculation. He calculated that in 3 more years after he became the king, the 70 years will be over. But he made a mistake as well. And upon completion of 3 years of his rulership, he made a big party. A party that lasted 180 days. He invited all the countries that he ruled over. And he ruled over 127 countries in addition to Persia. All the countries that pay taxes to Persia. For 180 days, he was showing off his wealth and his power, his glory. And then he decided to make a private party only for the capital city of Shushan. And that party lasted for 7 days. Now, when the Jewish people were invited to this private party, they asked their sages and they said, should we go to this party? Because we are loyal citizens of Persia. The king, the new king, surprisingly, after 3 years in power, he's making a party, and we have to show our support. Sounded like a good idea. But one of the sages, his name was Mordechai, and he's the second main character in the story, he told them that it's not a good idea to go. Even though we usually show support to the government, but in this case, why is he making the party 3 years after his inauguration? The reason is because he's celebrating that 70 years since destruction of the temple have passed and the temple has not been rebuilt. and he is celebrating, hoping that the temple will never be rebuilt again, God forbid. He is celebrating, hoping that God forgot about the Jews. So Mordechai told the Jewish people who lived in Shushan, you should not go, because by going, you are showing that you agree with him, that you lose hope, that you think that God forgot about you. There is no hope for the Jewish people, God forbid. And you are going to participate in the party in which holy vessels of our temple will be used by common people to drink and to eat. And the Jewish people were faced with a dilemma. On one hand, the king gave them a personal invitation to his private party. On the other hand, by going to the party, they will be going against their leader, Mordechai. And according to the words of their leader, they will be traitors. They will be giving up on God. What should they do? And they unfortunately made a wrong decision. They decided to attend the party. And what happened at the party? Exactly as Mordechai warned them. The vessels of the Holy Temple were brought out, and all participants were supposed to eat and drink from them. Now, at the party, something terrible happened again. In the first story, where Belshazzar used the vessels of the temple, he himself was killed. But in the story of Ahasuerus, it was not Ahasuerus who was killed, but rather his queen, Queen Vashti, who was the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar himself. Ahasuerus married Vashti so that he has some royal blood supporting him. Since he was a commoner who became the king, he needed support of Vashti. But at the party, on the 7th day of the celebration, he requested that Vashti, Queen Vashti, should come and present herself in front of all the guests, and she should show off her beauty. In fact, he said, and the Megillah tells us, he commanded Vashti, come in front of all the guests with your royal crown. And the sages say his request was, come out with only the royal crown upon yourself, no other clothing. And Vashti was incensed. She refused. She said, you are a commoner. You became drunk from drinking just a little wine. My grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar, could drink a full cup of wine with all his guests, and he has had thousands of guests, and he did not become drunk. And you became drunk, and you're asking your queen to do such a thing? I am of royal blood. I'm not going to listen to a commoner. That's the message she sent back to him. So Ahasuerus was very embarrassed, and he didn't know what to do. In the middle of the party, his own wife embarrasses him like that in front of all the guests. So he convened his cabinet and he said, what should we do to my queen? And he received many suggestions, but there was one minister, the youngest among them all. His name was Haman, and that's the third character, the third main character of the story. He decided to use this to his own advantage. And he said, "My dear king, your wife embarrassed you greatly. Anyone who goes against the king deserves death penalty. You have to teach everyone a lesson, and you must kill her." The king was shocked. He didn't expect that advice, but after thinking, surprisingly, he made such a decision. And no one expected that he'll listen to this youngest minister, especially since Vashti is important for Ahasuerus. Vashti is his door to kingship. She is of royal blood. But nevertheless, Ahasuerus was so hurt and embarrassed that he decided to kill Vashti. And on that same night, he killed his own wife. Now, 4 years passed after that story, and the king became lonely. And he asked his advisors, "What should I do? I need another queen." And they told him, and this time, the same Haman told him, "Why don't you make a contest, a beauty contest? Call all the most beautiful girls in your kingdom to come, and we will check who is the most beautiful one." First, they announced that volunteers should come, and volunteers came. Many volunteers came, but the king was not happy with any of them. Every day and every night he would spend with one lady, but after going one after another, he did not find anyone that he was impressed with. And then they made a new order. Not only we're inviting you, but we are forcing all young ladies must appear in front of the king for a contest. And at that point, they sent officers throughout the land to search out the candidates. And it so happened that the officers saw Esther, and that is the fourth main character of the story. Esther was Jewish, and she was descendant of King Saul, Shaul HaMelech. King Saul was the first Jewish king in history. After him, briefly was his son, and then kingship went to King David. So King Saul was king before King David. And Esther was descendant of King Saul. The officers brought Esther to the palace against her will. And they prepared her, and her turn came to appear before the king. And Esther found favor in the eyes of the king. And he announced that now he will have a new queen. But before he made her his queen, he asked her, "What nation are you from? I would like to invite your nation to the celebration of you becoming my queen, and I will give them special attention." But Esther asked her uncle, Mordechai, who she was raised by because both of her parents died. She asked him, "Should I tell him that I'm Jewish?" And Mordechai told her, "Don't tell him," because Mordechai was worried that if Ahasuerus finds out that Esther is Jewish, and not only she's Jewish, but she's of royal blood, she's a direct descendant of King Saul, Ahasuerus will for sure pick her and happily marry her, because Ahasuerus is looking for someone of royal blood. So he told Esther, under no circumstances tell the king that you are Jewish and that you are of royal blood. Just tell him you're from some small nation, unknown nation, that maybe he'll deny you. And that's what Esther did. And no matter how much Ahasuerus tried to get it out of her, she did not budge. He said, I will exempt your nation from taxes for the next 10 years. And she said, I can't. It's a secret. And no matter what, she did not reveal to him that she was Jewish. Around that time, Ahasuerus made Haman his prime minister, second in command. And and Haman, who was the descendant of the nation of Amalek, he made a new rule. Haman made a rule that all the subjects of Ahasuerus must bow down not only to Ahasuerus, but they also must bow down to his prime minister. As we can see already, that Ahasuerus was not a strong king. He was not from royal blood. He did not know how to control the nation. And it was very easy to change his opinion. So Haman used it to his advantage. And Ahasuerus agreed, fine. Everyone must bow down to Haman. And that's what happened. All the people of 127 nations, whenever they saw Haman, they bowed down to him to the floor. However, there was a problem, because normally, out of respect, we are allowed to bow down to people, to a king or someone that we respect. In many Eastern countries, they still do that. They bow down when they greet you. That is okay. However, Ahasuerus had a chain, and on the chain he had an idol. So the Jewish people had again a dilemma. Should we bow down to Haman? And even though we're bowed down to him, out of respect for his status as the minister of the king, but it looks like we're bowing down to the idol that is hanging on his chest. And they asked this question to their leader, Mordechai, again. And Mordechai again told them, you should not bow down to him. Because again, it will appear as if you are serving the idol on his chest. But the Jewish people again made a mistake. And all the Jewish people bowed down to Haman, just like everyone else. And Mordechai alone was the brave one who did not bow down to Haman. And Haman saw it, because out of the entire crowd of people that were bowing down, there was one man standing upright. And he became enraged. And he found out that this guy, Mordechai, is Jewish. And he said, I'm going to kill him. But not only that, he said, I'm going to teach everyone a lesson, and I'm going to kill his entire nation. When the Jewish people found out what Mordechai is doing, they told him, Mordechai, we agree with you that we shouldn't bow down to him, but we cannot overcome our fear. But please, can you stay home? Can you not go to the public square where everyone is greeting Haman? Can you not appear in public, and then you're not going to be challenged with this? And Mordechai said, no, I'm not staying home. I am going to be in the front, and I'm going to show him that I don't bow down to idols. And no matter how much Jewish people begged him, don't do that, you're endangering our life, Mordechai did not change his mind. And the Jewish people were very upset at Mordechai. They said, last time when we had a similar challenge, you gave us a bad advice. You told us not to go to the king's party. And we listened, and look, everything was fine. The king treated us well. For the past many years, we live in peace under this king. If we listened to you, we would be in trouble. And now again, you're inciting the government against us. And they wanted to excommunicate Mordechai. They wanted to remove him from his position of the leader, but it was too late. Haman already made his evil plan. But before making a decree of annihilation, he decided to play lottery. He threw lots to find out what would be the best month and the best day to kill the entire Jewish nation. And the lots fell on the month of Adar that we're in now, the 12th month of the Jewish year. And the lots fell on the 13th of Adar. And Haman became happy because he remembered that the great prophet Moses died in the month of Adar. And Haman said to himself, it must be that the month of Adar is not lucky for the Jewish people. It must be that I will have success against the Jews. And he approached Ahasuerus, the king, with a proposal. He said to him, there's this nation of the Jews, and they are separate from everyone. They have strange customs. Why do we need them? Let's just kill them. And Ahasuerus said to him, yes, you know, I'm on the same page with you. I don't know why we have them around. But you know what? I need them because they're paying taxes. So Haman said, don't worry. I personally will give you a yearly amount that they pay in taxes. And Ahasuerus said, fine. I'm giving you permission to make a decree to kill all the Jewish people. And Haman sent messengers to 127 countries around the world with a proclamation. On the 13th of the month of Adar, all the nations of the world are commanded to kill all the Jews that live in their countries. And the Jewish people of Shushan, as well as in all the other countries, heard about this decree, because this decree was read publicly on every town square. And they mourned, and they tore their clothing. And Mordechai came in front of the palace, and he sat by the gate of the palace in sackcloth, with ash on his head as a sign of mourning. Why did he do it? Because he wanted to show that despite Haman's evil decree, he's not giving up. He's not changing his mind. He's not hiding. He's going to sit by the palace gate, and whenever Haman is going to pass by, he's going to continue sinning. He's not going to get up. He's not going to bow down. He's going to continue sinning as if he doesn't notice Haman, to show that he's not afraid of him. And the servants of Esther, the queen, told her, you know, your uncle is sitting by the gate of the palace in sackcloth instead of regular clothing. Esther at this time did not hear about the decree yet. And she said, can you please find out from him what's going on? Why is he sitting with sackcloth? And they came back to her and they told her about the decree. And she said, what should I do? How can I help? I'm the queen. And again, they went to Mordechai and they asked, what can Esther do? And Mordechai said, she must go to King Ahasuerus and she must beg him to change the decree. But Esther said, unfortunately, I cannot do this because the rule in Persia is one can only go in front of the king after filing an application and receiving an appointment with the king. Even the queen cannot see the king unless the king calls for her. And she said, I have to wait until the king calls me, because if I appear in front of the king uninvited, I will be killed. But Mordechai said to messengers, tell Esther that she must nevertheless go and appear before the king and beg him. And as far as for the danger to her life, the entire Jewish people are in danger. And tell Esther that she should not think that being the queen, she will be spared the fate of the Jewish people. The opposite might happen. If she will refuse to help, God will save the Jewish people through someone else. But because she did not do her part, she will die. And the messenger told this to Esther, and she realized she does not have any choice. She must risk her life and go in front of the king. So she asked Mordechai to declare a 3-day fast. For 3 days, all men and women must not eat nor drink, and beg God for mercy. And at the end of the 3rd day, she will go in front of the king. And that's what happened. Mordechai declared the fast day. And by the way, this happened 11 months prior to the story of Purim. It happened in the month of Nisan, on the 13th of Nisan. And Mordechai said, from tomorrow, which is 14th, 15th, and 16th of Nisan, everyone must fast. And the Jewish people again said, what? The holiday of Pesach, Passover, is coming up on the night between 14th to 15th of Nisan. And on the night of Passover, we must eat matzah. How can you tell us to fast? Let's wait until after Passover, and then we'll fast for as many days as you want. And Mordechai told them, no, you must fast 14th, 15th, and 16th, even though you will have to miss eating matzah on Passover. You must still do as I said. And again, Jewish people were faced with a dilemma for the 3rd time. Should we listen to our leader or not? And at this time, they made the right decision. They said, we did not listen to Mordechai before, and look where we are. And even though we blame him, but now we have no choice. The only thing that can help us is our connection to God. And who is our representative? Our leader, Mordechai. We must follow him as if it's the word of God. And even though God told us to eat matzah on Passover, the leader who represents God told us not to eat matzah on Passover and fast instead. So the Jewish people were able to atone for their mistake by listening to their leader, even though it didn't make sense to them. And they fasted for 3 days. And God heard their prayers. And when on the 3rd day, Esther appeared in front of the king started thinking, what is this? She comes uninvited, and God caused Esther to find favor in Ahasuerus's eyes again. And the king calmed down, and he allowed Esther to come in. And Esther did not say her request right away. Rather, she said, my dear king, I have something very important to ask you. But first, I would like to invite you to a celebration, a party that I'm making tonight. And to this party, I will only invite 2 people, my dear king plus Haman. The king said, fine, I like parties. And he sent messengers to call Haman. And in the evening, at the party, the king asked Esther, my dear wife, tell me please, what is on your heart? And Esther said, I'm still not able to tell you. I want you to come one more time tomorrow night for a second party. And then I will tell you. Why did Esther do this? She wanted to make Ahasuerus think that there is some kind of a conspiracy. Something strange is going on. Why is my wife inviting me and Haman? Why only 2 men? What's going on? Perhaps they want to assassinate me. Perhaps Esther has some kind of an affair with Haman. But he was patient. He said, okay, let's see what's going to be tomorrow. After Haman left the party, he again encountered Mordechai. And again, Mordechai did not rise and did not bow down. And all Haman's happiness was gone. He came home sad, and his wife said, what's going on? You just came from the private party audience with the king. Why are you not happy? And he said, because there is one Jew who is not bowing down to me. And all my wealth and glory is not worth anything to me until that Jew, Mordechai, bows down to me. And his wife said, that's simple. Why are you waiting until next year, 11 months from now, to kill Mordechai? Kill him now and kill his nation in 11 months. Haman said, that's a good idea. So he erected a tall tree, a tall beam in his backyard. And he went that same night to Ahasuerus to request permission to hang Mordechai in the morning. Now, Ahasuerus, surprisingly, was not able to fall asleep that night. And he started thinking, what's going on? Why such strange things are happening? My wife is keeping secrets from me. I'm being invited to strange parties. Maybe there is a plot to assassinate me. So he said, let me see the history books, the chronicles of Persia. Perhaps there is someone who I owe a favor to, and because I didn't pay him, people don't want to inform me because they know I don't pay informers. And his servants read the chronicles And they came to a story that happened a few years prior, where there was assassination attempt on King Ahasuerus. And surprisingly, who was the person who found out about it and informed the king? It was none other than Mordechai himself. Because Mordechai spoke a strange language that these conspirators were conversing in. And Mordechai was able to inform the king and save him. And King Ahasuerus asked, did we reward him? They checked it out. No, he did not get any reward. Ahasuerus said, now I understand why no one ever since informed me of any conspiracy. We must reward him. And at that same moment, Haman walked in. And Ahasuerus said, Haman, you are the guy who I need right now. I need to ask you advice. I have a man who I owe a favor to. How should I reward him? And Haman thought that the king is referring to him. Haman said, oh, I know exactly what I like. You should take your royal garments, take your royal horse and your crown, put it on this man and ride him around the entire capital city and proclaim, this is the man that the king loves. And Ahasuerus said, I like that idea. You, Haman, in the morning, take Mordechai and do this to him. Haman was shocked. What do you mean? I just came to ask you to kill Mordechai, and you're telling me to honor Mordechai? And the king said, nothing doing. Go and do everything that you said. And Haman was forced to dress Mordechai in beautiful royal garments, put a crown on his head, and ride him around the whole city on a horse, proclaiming, this is the man that the king loves. Haman was devastated. But the messengers of the king grabbed him and said, now time came to go to the second party. And at the second party, the king asked Esther again, my dear Esther, can you finally tell me what's on your mind? What's the secret? And she said, yes, my dear king, I will finally reveal to you who I am. I am Jewish. And someone wants to kill me. The king said, who wants to kill you? And Queen said, not only they want to kill me, they want to kill my entire nation. So the king said, who is that? And she pointed to Haman, this evil man, Haman. And after some shock, the king commanded that Haman should be arrested. And one of the servants of the king said, by the way, you know that Haman not only wanted to kill your queen, Haman also wanted to kill Mordechai, the same guy who just this morning you proclaimed that you love. And Ahasuerus said, if so, kill Haman immediately on the same gallows that he prepared for Mordechai. And Haman was hung. At that moment, Esther begged Ahasuerus, and she said, I have another request. Can you please cancel the decree against the Jews? And Ahasuerus said, I'm sorry, but I cannot do this, because it would be embarrassing for a king to cancel his own decree. I'm not doing that. So Esther said, what's going to be with the Jews? Ahasuerus said, the only thing I can do is I can write a new decree allowing the Jews to defend themselves. What are you going to do? Okay? And that's the decree Ahasuerus made. While the original decree was there, all the nations of all 127 countries are supposed to take weapons and kill all the Jews in their country. An additional decree came. The Jews are allowed to defend themselves. So everyone was confused. What's going on with this strange king? He kills his wife. He kills his minister. He sends a decree to kill the Jews. Then he sends a decree, the Jews are allowed to defend themselves. On top of that, Ahasuerus made Mordechai his prime minister instead of Haman. And now the nations of the world became scared. How can we follow the first decree and kill the Jews if the prime minister is Jewish himself? And the queen, all of a sudden we find out she's also Jewish. What's going on? And when the day of 13th of Adar came, only few real anti-Semites took weapons to fight against the Jews. And the Jewish people were able to successfully defend themselves. Now, on the following day, after the battle, which is now 14th of Adar, the Jewish people celebrated. Because for that entire year, they were still worried. What's going to be? How many enemies we're going to have? And when finally the war was over, they celebrated. And the sages made that day that the Jewish people celebrated, the 14th of Adar, as a national holiday for all future generations. And already for 2,360 years, we're celebrating this holiday. Every year on the 13th of Adar, which is tomorrow, the Jewish people fast in commemoration of the fast that Esther decreed. And this fast is called the Fast of Esther. And the following day, which is Friday, the Jewish people celebrate Purim, the day when finally they were relieved of fear of annihilation. Now, just briefly, what do we learn from this story? Surprisingly, the book of Esther does not contain the name of God. Unlike most other books of the Bible, the book of Esther, even though it was written with prophetic inspiration, does not mention God. And our sages say that is because the events that took place over this period of a few years looked natural. It looked like just political game. It looked like just the regular events of one king replacing another king, ministers, assassinations, disobedience, revolt. It looked natural. And God wanted to show the Jewish people, now a new era is coming for the Jewish people, for the next long time, for the next 2.5, almost 1,000 years. You will live in such a world where I will be hidden from you. After the book of Esther, the era of prophecy finished. There were no more prophets. During the Second Temple era, there were no more prophets. God was teaching the Jewish people a lesson. Don't you ever think that I abandoned you. Don't you ever give up. Don't you ever think that I chose another nation. I chose the Jewish people, and I will be committed to them. And even though things will look bleak, it will look like the whole world is rising against you to kill you. Don't worry. The Jewish people will always survive. And thank God for the past 2,360 years since the story of Purim, many enemies came, many attempts to annihilate the Jewish nation, many holocausts, inquisitions happened. And thank God the Jewish people are still alive, they're still vibrant, and they're still serving as the light to the nations. Our Bible is still the foundation of most of majority of legal systems around the world. The Jews are still at the forefront of science and math and medicine. And the Jewish nation is right now the only democracy in the Middle East, and may the number of democracies only grow. And they are the ally, one of the few strong allies of the United States, despite going through the Holocaust only 70 years ago, being on the brink of annihilation. Now, the Jewish people are found on every front page newspaper around the world. We're still convinced, we see clearly that God still loves and protects the Jews. And God still has great hopes for the Jews. And the Jewish people, like never before, are hopeful and expectant that their temple will be rebuilt, that Jerusalem will be rebuilt, that we will be able to live in peace among our neighbors, and that the knowledge about God, about the Bible, will be revealed around the world again, that all the nations of the world will serve God, one God, and ultimate peace will come to all the nations in the world. And the story of Purim is a reminder for every human being, whether Jewish or not, that good will overcome evil. That events in your personal life are guided by higher power. That everything that happens is orchestrated by the master planner. And no human being should ever despair. Our sages say, even if a sword is on your neck, you should never lose hope. Everything can change in the blink of an eye, just like we remember in the story of Purim. On the night when Haman wanted to hang Mordechai, on that same night he was given command to honor Mordechai with the greatest honor of Persia. I wish everyone happy Purim. May we all see miracles in our life, and we will if we only open our eyes. May we be strong and never give up. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask.